Our guest of today is the ambassador in Belgium for Botswana.
One of the roles that I had before I became an ambassador was the president of Women in Business in Botswana. When you come into a country, it's very important to respect the way the country does their business. And by that I mean you cannot come in with preconceived solutions and say, this is how this is going to work. Understand your market, understand your customer, and understand what works in that environment. I think one of our key challenges as entrepreneurs is cutting ourselves off from people who can hold us accountable.
Yes.
It is not about you. It's about how you can work with the people around you to help them understand and appreciate your point of view. Part of that positivity was because of the communities that I had around me. If education is all about preparing you for a job in area X, then I'm afraid that model of education is under severe challenge and severe threat. Skills like critical thinking, skills like emotional intelligence, skills like developing a mindset and a healthy curiosity to continue to learn, to continue to grow, and to continue to engage. Those are the things that we're missing from our educational system.
According to research, 24% of women use less AI than men, and it concerns me.
Whether we are based in Europe or based in Africa, we are in a position now to close the digital divide, to close the digital gap. My piece of wisdom would be...
Welcome back to our podcast, 30 Years of Wisdom. And my journey today took me all the way to Brussels because we have a very, very special guest. Our guest of today is the ambassador in Belgium for Botswana. I am incredibly honored to introduce to you Mmasekgoa because she is actually doing her very last day today. Welcome, Mmasekgoa, and thank you so much. It's an honor to be able to interview you on your last official day.
Thank you very much, Jackie, and thank you very much for this opportunity to reflect on my time here in Brussels and also to reflect on what the journey ahead looks like. I thank you for this opportunity.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. You've been in Belgium now for 3 years.
I have indeed.
Yes, but you've been an ambassador for Botswana longer. You were in Germany for 4 years. Mm-hmm. You were in the UK for 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. And there you worked for the Commonwealth. Mm-hmm. So explain a little bit about your journey, what took you abroad to be an ambassador, and what it was, just a little bit of your journey throughout the years, and 3 years in Belgium as well.
My diplomatic journey started some time ago when I joined the Commonwealth. It was for a period of 6 years. We initially got 2 terms of 3 years each. Mm-hmm. And in that period, I was responsible for the political, for the rule of law, for the youth, and for the human rights agenda. And so it really brought me right into the fore of multilateral diplomacy, right into the fore of issues that are common across the borders, that are common, values that are common for us in Botswana and in the broader communities. And it was after that period that I was appointed as Botswana's second ambassador to a newly opened mission in Germany, the Embassy of Botswana in Germany. And after serving for 4 years, I then was moved here to Brussels. And in Belgium, I've been here for 3 years. But it's been a 3-year period that has been very busy from the time that I arrived, because in Brussels, I am responsible not only for Belgium, but for the Netherlands, for Luxembourg, for Italy, and for the EU, and all the other intergovernmental agencies that are here. So once again, the grounding that I had in the Commonwealth positioned me very well to be able to be versatile in the way that I approached my job and in the issues that I lent my support to.
So looking back on all those years, what was for you one of the most significant moments that the co-workingship between Europe and Africa?
I think the relationship between Africa and Europe has been a very challenged relationship over time. And my view is that until we come to the point of view where we see mutual benefit of our relationship, that for me is the change that needs to take place. We are beginning to see an appreciation for what Africa brings to the table, and likewise we are beginning to see a lot more about creating jobs in Africa, doing value addition in Africa. And so I see a mutual respect, a mutual give and take between Africa and Europe. And I think that's really the basis and the basis of a forward-looking relationship. I think our history is important. Our history has to be acknowledged, but our history has to be a base beyond which we can move. And I think that as long as we don't lose sight of that, but at the same time we recommit ourselves to work together towards a common future. That for me is one thing that throughout the three portfolios that I've held in diplomacy has come up over and over again. We are more alike than we are different. We have similar sets of values, and it's important that we respect the different points of view and how we give effect to those values, because sometimes the issue is not even the value itself, is how we give effect to those values. And that's what I think is very, very important as we move forward.
And did you see a shift the last couple of years with the change of the geopolitical environment?
I think the geopolitical environment has really created more or less an opportunity for Africa and Europe to reassess their relationship, to be more intentional about how to build that relationship and how to work together going forward. So there's definitely has been a shift. It's not too long ago when we had the COVID crisis and when we saw a fragmentation of this relationship as we found that medication was not always available as and when it should. We got the impression there was a lot of hogging instead of sharing the resources that were required. And I think that in itself was a turning point, because there is no way we can get back to that kind of mindset if we are going to build the world together. We are going to solve problems that we face as a global community. So I've seen very, very positive developments, and I'm hoping that these are developments that we can build on and reinforce as we move forward.
I think that Botswana has a unique position in Africa. Mm-hmm. And could you explain why?
As the ambassador of Botswana, it's my job to trumpet and champion Botswana. But I do so very proudly, and I do so from a very firm commitment to my country and what it represents. And one of the things that I like to point out about Botswana is the colors of the flag, because the colors of the flag are blue, black, and white. And with the blue, we are a country that is in Southern Africa, a country that has long felt the impact of climate change is a drought-prone country, and therefore water is very important to Botswana. And the blue represents that. Botswana, Pula means rain, and the blue captures that significant role that we see rain and we see water in the country. The black is for the majority, for the black majority, and the white is for the white people that we also live side by side. So it's a very harmonious flag which talks to multiracialism, which talks to resources that are available for us, for our livelihoods and for our development. And therefore, I think it's a very forward-looking flag that speaks to many of the issues and many of the challenges that we are facing today. I cited climate change, I cited development, and I cited harmonious relationship between different communities. And all of that is embodied in the Botswana flag. And I think that's part of what makes it special in my eyes, that it is very intentional and very focused on those areas in its representation.
So, Mmasekgoa, you've been an ambassador for 3 years, and you've worked with entrepreneurs in both cultures. So, African and European, what should they understand about each other going forward as entrepreneurs?
One of the roles that I had before I became an ambassador was the president of Women in Business in Botswana. And that gave me first-hand opportunity to work with different women, particularly women in small business and women-owned businesses that were looking to establish themselves and to expand. Here in Europe, starting in Germany, I was exposed to, once again, a lot of small business, because small business are the backbone of the German economy, in effect, the backbone for a lot of European economies. So the first thing I see between the two is that common endeavor to do more, that common endeavor to create value for their communities and for their societies. What struck me in particular about Germany was a number of family-owned businesses. This was something that I could relate to coming from a country like Botswana, because very often you see that small businesses they're not community-based, in that not the whole community is there. But I know that even in my meager entrepreneurial endeavors, I would always be there with my sisters, with my brother. Everybody got involved. And whether they were part of the business or not, they were part of the team that helped to realize that vision. That immediately resonated with me. And then secondly, as we look at business today, we also recognize that we have a lot of young people. We have the digital natives that are here and in our country in Botswana. And I'm very excited about the way the digital divide has been addressed in some instances. We normally cite, for example, a country like Kenya that started the mobile payment system, which is called the M-Pesa. And this mobile payment system has been adapted in the West. And it started off in a developing country because that's where the need was felt. But what it does say is, whether we are based in Europe or based in Africa, we are in a position now to close the digital divide, to close the digital gap, and to really use innovation as a way of bringing us closer together. It was very interesting because even during the COVID era, we saw a lot of collaboration between young people, both based here and in Botswana, where it no longer mattered. The geography wasn't the key issue. The key issue was, what can we work on together? So that collaborative spirit, that leaning into technological solutions and innovation, and that spirit of building a community around the business. Because sometimes as an entrepreneur, you believe you can do it alone because you came up with the business idea. And whilst you came up with the business idea, very often it's the people around you that are going to help you to realize your vision.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, because being a solopreneur, actually you're creating your own bottleneck, so you cannot grow, first of all. And second of all, in order to grow as a solopreneur, when you surround yourself with people that are smarter and better in what they are able to bring to the business, then actually what you're doing is you're bringing talents together, and that creates co-workingship. And actually that is what creates, from my point of view, a business that can thrive.
And this is also important when you talk about, when you consider the family coming together. In other words, if you are surrounded by people who know you better, people who can guide you better in terms of, this is not, something is not right. People who can hold you accountable. I think one of our key challenges as entrepreneurs is cutting ourselves off from people who can hold us accountable.
Yes.
Because, as I said earlier, they don't have to be a part of the business, but they have to have enough of an interest to be able to say to you and ask the awkward questions. Sometimes questions that your employees can't ask you, or sometimes the interest that your own investors can't ask you, but questions that can really put you right on a number of issues, questions that can point you out in where the opportunities may lie that you may not be alive to. But it's very, very important that we don't lose that sense of drawing from the community. And the difference is that when you are a corporation, that is built in.
Yeah.
You have a board of directors. You have a governance system that is already in place. You have measures and reports that you have to provide that hold you accountable. But I think as an entrepreneur, one of the key challenges is who holds you accountable for your own vision. Fair enough, it's your vision, but in order to realize that vision, you have to be accountable to someone as well.
Oh, thank you for that. I really, really, absolutely love just what you said, and I will say also why, because that is what I see as well. Mm-hmm. That many people don't dare to hold someone accountable, and I always say to the people that are closest with me and closest involved in what I'm doing, I always say, you hold me accountable. Please tell me, because I cannot learn or adapt but when I'm not held accountable.
Very true. Very true.
So I think this is very, very important for entrepreneurs to surround themselves with people that hold them accountable, and especially with people that dare to say it, because not everybody dares to say it. So for entrepreneurs, what is important for them to really know? Because Africa actually has 54 countries within. So it's a huge continent. So and it's not a uniform market. What is in that aspect for entrepreneurs important to know?
For entrepreneurs, culture is very, very important. I think that as you walk across, as you go across Africa, or as you tap into opportunities across the continent, with 54 countries, sometimes you even have a lot of different cultures within the same country. Yes, the business culture is more aligned because it is dictated by the dictates of business, but the manner and the way in which you conduct the business is different. So my take is that when you come into a country, it's very important to respect the way the country does their business. And by that I mean you cannot come in with preconceived solutions and say, this is how this is going to work. And also when you come in Africa, just because you did it one way in one part of Africa doesn't mean that it will work in another part of Africa. Everybody wants to be heard. Everybody wants to feel you are speaking to them and you are engaging with them on their own terms. They don't want to feel that you are engaging them based on some kind of artificial appreciation. It's the same as us coming into Europe. Europe is not uniform either. No. Europe, we find, yes, there's a lot of similarity in certain things and how certain things are done, but the business culture also differs from country to country. There are some cultures in Europe where the relationship is important and people want you to take time to to understand who they are and how they do business. And there are some that are very functional and very transactional. And you find the same thing in Africa. There's a lot that are very, very focused on, let's build a relationship, let's work together, let's try to find common solutions. But you will also find those that say, if you don't deliver, then I have options that I wish to exercise. And so tell me whether you are delivering or not. So I think we have to understand that diversity is everywhere, and that even within both cultures, both African culture and European culture, if I can use that word loosely, you are going to find that business is done differently. So take time, understand your market, understand your customer, and understand what works in that environment. Having worked in Botswana in investment promotion, that was part of the frustration that if you come in and you are already dictating based on an experience from somewhere else in Africa, it really did not create an opportunity for us to engage more meaningfully. But if you come in and you ask the question, how in this country do I XYZ? It just makes for a much more, let's sit down, let's work it out. In business, it's give and take. If you're going to engage in international business, it cannot just be, this is the way I do it and this is the only way to do it. What is important is for both parties to look at the end goal and to ask yourselves, honestly, as a partnership, if that's what you are doing, how do we realize that end goal? If it's a supplier-buyer relationship, again, what are the expectations on either side? How do we realize those expectations? What are the concerns that either side has? And how do we allay any fears that may come? Because sometimes it's just personal experience that somebody has had dealing with someone from that part of the world, but sometimes it's born out of ignorance of what really prevails in that part of the world. And by that part of the world, I mean in both senses. When a lot of Europeans come to Africa, they come through and they believe that, we are going to have difficulty for reason X, Y, Z. The same happens with African entrepreneurs coming to Europe. How do I know who to trust? How do I know that if I do this, this is not going to happen? So we have to find a way of bridging that trust gap. And I believe that bridging the trust gap can be done through appreciation of each other's culture. This is why the work that we do in the embassy is also so important, because it's about building relationships. It's about showcasing who we are, so that you can feel more comfortable. And even as you pursue business ventures and business interests, you know, this is where I'm going. And if the business case is there, then it makes it even more compelling for you to move forward. And it's in both directions.
Yeah. In our talk for the preparation of this podcast, we talked about that basically wherever you go in the world, no matter what religion or what your background is, we are all human beings. And actually, basically, we all want the same.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's not divided by religion or cultures or whatever.
Or which part of the world you happen to come from. We want to do business together. We respect each other. We respect what each party brings to the table. It's actually even valid if you're doing a partnership with the guy next door. It's going to be the same kind of concerns. You know, I know you, you are my friend. We went to school together. We've never been in business together.
No, that's different.
We're about to go into business. What do I need to know? And how are we going to run our business?
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting question. And I think it's a very pertinent question, because it is sometimes blown up by the fact that I'm in a totally different continent, or I'm talking to a totally different part of Africa, or I did this in one country and I'm not so sure why it's not working in this country. It's not working. There are two different countries. There are two different approaches. So our approach to the people that we meet, our approach to the business opportunity will also go a long way towards ensuring success and win-win partnerships at the end of the day.
Yeah. Mmasekgoa, What about the technology between Europe and Africa and Botswana? What about the technology? How did it evolve since the upcoming of AI? And how do you see the future between the Europe and Africa and Botswana?
AI has really given us on the African continent a great opportunity to leapfrog the digital divide. When we started as a continent a few years ago, telecommunications was few and far between. During the era where we were looking at landlines, the challenges of connectivity in remote sites, the costs of getting network coverage across the country. Botswana is a country the size of France. Botswana is a country with a population of around 2 million. And we are a large country, and we were spread out in different parts of the country. And therefore, access to communication came at a very, very high cost. But as the digital era came in, we found that we were able to roll out much faster because of mobile technology. And it is because of the investment in mobile technology and the investment in the digital era that we are now in a position to tap into the promise of AI. I say the promise because even as I speak, AI is not as readily adopted, is not as readily adapted across the continent. This is a challenge for us, and this is an area of particular interest because of the potential that AI has for us all.
You know, according to research, 24% of women use less AI than men, and it concerns me. And it concerns me wherever, in whatever part of the world. Mm-hmm. AI is here to stay. It's not going to go away. Mm-hmm. And I believe very much that the early adapters of AI will have an advantage in business, in entrepreneurship, and in actually gaining a good job for the future. What also concerns me is that teaching that we get in schools are not fast enough compared to the growth of AI.
You are right. The pace at which AI is moving is really breathtaking, to put it mildly. And as we have all heard about generative AI, yes, which is like almost fueling its own growth, if you will, yeah, because it's generating even more options and even more and faster ways of doing more. So it is important that we take on board, especially as women leaders, women in business. The statistics that you are pointing to are generally of concern, because when AI started and when AI was popularized in the beginning, there were a lot of issues around governance. There were a lot of issues around ethics. There were a lot of issues around hallucination and how AI could be used as a negative force. A number of these issues are still there. The issues around governance and ethics is very, very important. And as AI models become even more pervasive and become even more their capability is even higher than it is now, then we cannot be blindsided about the importance of those two issues. This still does not excuse our gender, our women becoming involved with AI, because like every tool, it will allow you to do certain things better. It will speak to productivity. It will free you up in certain areas, because in certain areas it can take the role of some of the mundane administrative responsibilities. Yeah. I listened to one of the AI proponents the other day talking about how they did a study in the hospital, and they found that a large portion of the nurses' duties is actually administrative. And if AI could be adopted in those kind of settings, it means that the nurses would be freer to take more direct care of the patients. So you see that it's not only an efficiency tool, but it can also add more to the work that we are doing, depending, of course, on the nature of the job. Because if as a nurse you want to care for patients and you want to sit with them and you want to work with them, sometimes you can't, because you still have to be filling in sheets and checking monitors and doing this, that, and the other. So if some of the administration could be taken off, then you find that you can do more with your time and you can do more of value to you as a person. So much as AI can be seen as dehumanizing in terms of the routineness and the way in which it responds to the administrative challenge, by freeing us up, it can also allow us to be more engaged and to be more relational in the way that we engage, because we are not being tied up. But it is a major concern, and it is also a concern to me that as women, if we do not embrace the technology, the gap between men and women is also going to be a lot higher. Because then it means that the people who are able to do well in this modern society are not going to be the women, because they don't understand how the technology works, but it's going to be the early adapters, the men who engage it right from the get-go and say, let's see how we manage the not so positive elements, but let's also make sure how we lean into the points that can make our work easier and can help us advance further.
Yes, I agree. I agree just 1000%. And also, at this moment, there are, the next generation is in our schools. They're 12, 13, 14, and they're going to be obsolete because AI will adapt. And this is only something that we need actually governments to change and adapt the law for schools. Train our teachers, to be able to give AI in school, and to also look at the new jobs that are going to be created.
And when you talk about education, it's not just our young people at schools, because even when we look at research and we look at what we do in academia, that is also being challenged, because now AI models out there can very quickly do a lot of the research functions that hitherto were in the purview of the academia. And therefore, how we really, education, I think, is really being turned on its head as we speak, because we have to look at, I know, for example, when we were going through the COVID era, we saw a lot of distance education coming up, and distance education became more readily acceptable, more palatable. But that was also before AI really was so commonly used. And right now, teachers are getting concerned and worried who actually is responding to the questions that I'm putting forward. And therefore, the whole way we approach education, I think it's an opportunity for education to reinvent itself.
Yes.
How that is going to happen, I don't know. Because if education is all about preparing you for a job in area X, then I'm afraid that model of education is under severe challenge and severe threat. If education is preparing you to be able to adapt to the changes that are happening around you, if it is preparing you to be able to be more technologically oriented, but not everybody's going to end up in technology. No. So the technology is not taking over our lives, but it's just, how does education prepare us for the future? Yeah. I think that's an interesting question for educationalists to really ponder and say, what we've been doing, if we continue doing more of the same, I'm afraid I also agree with you that it looks very oblique for the students that are in school right now. What jobs are we preparing them for? Yes. And so if it's not the jobs that we can be certain about, what else and how else. Skills like critical thinking, skills like emotional intelligence, skills like developing a mindset and a healthy curiosity to continue to learn, to continue to grow, and to continue to engage. Those are the things that we're missing from our educational system. And maybe those are some of the things that could help us to balance the uncertainties that are part of our everyday life now.
Thank you for this. Yes, a lot of listeners and the watchers, they could benefit so much of your wise words.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Two or three little questions.
Okay.
little questions. Okay. Mmasekgoa, you said in our talk something very, very beautiful. You said it's not about you. So explain your philosophy on that.
My philosophy is that in life, we are provided with opportunities. In life, we go on journeys and we undertake different initiatives in our different capacities. And it's very, very important that we realize that we are here in service of the rest of humanity. And therefore, even if things happen to you or happen for you, it doesn't stop and start with you. And once you understand that it's not about you, it's easier to navigate some of the complexities that will come your way. And let me give you an example. If you are in a position of privilege, like the ambassador's role, then you are representing your country, and you are here to project and to profile your country. It's not about you. It's about your country.
Yes.
It's about how it is that the country can prosper, and it's about the people of the country. And at an individual level, if you are doing something that is not mindful, that is contrary to the mission that you are about, then you also have to recognize that you might be feeling a certain way, and guess what? It is not about you. It's about how you can work with the people around you to help them understand and appreciate your point of view. So it's a philosophy, it's a way of life that for me really speaks volumes, and it helps me in both difficult and in good times. Right now, I have been in my farewell season. I have spoken to a lot of people here in Brussels, and a lot of them have been very positive about the engagement that we had. And I have to know and have the humility to understand that part of that positive experience was because of the country that I'm representing. Part of that experience and that positivity was because of the team that I'm working with. Part of that positivity was because of the communities that I had around me. So it's all very well to feel like, oh yeah, I did a great job. And I'm not saying you should never ever say I did a great job, but I'm saying that there's a bigger story, there's a bigger mission than just you getting a pat on the back or just you doing a great job. We do it because it's important, and we do it because it can help someone else and unlock something in someone else out there.
If you could leave our listeners with one piece of wisdom, what would it be?
My piece of wisdom would be to our listeners to say that we are part of a common humanity. It can be very painful when we take decisions that appear to be in our own best interest without realizing that if it doesn't work for someone else, then in a way it's not working out for me. We find that especially in the geopolitics of today, we find the degree of unilateralism and the degree of power play can undermine this common endeavor that we have for a shared humanity and for a common future. So if I had a piece of wisdom, I would say, think about the impact of what you are about to do, and think about your relationship with respect to others that will be impacted by that.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to have you as a guest today. People can follow you on LinkedIn.
People can follow me on LinkedIn. That is my most active social media platform, and it's Mmasekgoa M. So it's Mmasekgoa with an M. It's not a very common name. So if you get the first few letters right, you'll probably get there.
Well, anyway, I will get I will put the link in the show notes below,
all right,
so everybody can follow you.
No problem at all. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
it was
you.
An absolute honor.
Thank you very much, Jackie. This conversation that we just had is a perfect way for me to end my time here. Because when we are in diplomacy and when we are posted in different countries, it's about the relationships. It's about the people that we meet. It's about the conversations that we have. And it's about the opportunity to continue to do more together. I thank you very much.
Thank you.